Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have none other than the AD Drew providing us his presence today as part of episode 403. So welcome to episode 403 Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast on the Black College Sports Network, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our K2H 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, before I go to y'all and ask how you're doing, man, I just seen Brother Lee Gilmore Jr. Brother Gilmore is in the building, man. I just need to give a shout out to Brother Gilmore, who always treats me well when I go by his house and go into the garage when we need a little mental fortitude of taking the next step as you get worn down, brothers, at times. You know how that goes. I'll get back and shout out some other folks before I do that. Charles, how you doing?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. We're getting close to the weekend. That means it's time to pull out the golf sticks this weekend. So enjoying this June right now.
Man, I need to give you some playing money so I can get some extra tips out there this weekend, because it sounds like you feeling good. It sounds like you might bring some home for Father's Day.
Hey, my game gets pretty doggone good in the summer, so I'm always excited. Once I start peaking toward the end of the summer, and then it's time to get back to football season. So
get back to the real world. With that being said, to it, happy Father's Day to all those out there, including you, Charles. Great picture, man. Your older daughter looks just like you, that round head, poor baby. Beautiful ladies that you have there, those daughters.
Thank
both
you.
of them. Happy Father's Day. With that being said, happy Father's Day to you, Drew. How you doing? Happy Father's Day weekend, I say. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Doc. This is day 3 of severe storms here in the South Georgia area. Lost power for a while last night. So I'm going to warn everybody now. If I just disappear off of this podcast, Dr. Cavil, please don't take any points off my assignment. Mother Nature has called and I have to answer. I will try my best to use my cell phone if that should come, but that's assuming that the cell tower is going to go down also.
Perfect the way that you did it. You come at the beginning and make sure the professor knows, dean of the college understands what is taking place. When that happens, certainly life happens, no problem. You've had excellent grades thus far. You've been on time. So that's the perfect way that you get it done. So when a real emergency comes, there's not a problem.
You get grace.
And I'm gonna explain how life happened today. I had an appointment this morning, so got the email saying there was no power on campus today. So when I get on campus, course, there was still no power. This was about 11 something when I get on campus. So I go to the gym, and while I'm in the gym, the lights come on. And Doc, I'm in the gym maybe 5 minutes later, as I walk out the gym, walk back towards my office, which is in another building, lightning strikes the transformer behind my office, which means now everybody else on campus has lights, but my building because the transformer just got struck by lightning. And obviously, the crews are not going to work on repairing electricity during a lightning storm at that point in time. So I just politely said, I'll be working remote for the rest of the day. And I went on ahead and went home.
I love it. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. Let me jump in here. Shout out some folks who keep going. Lennon Blow, Chuck Hunt, Emma Price, Edwin D. Moore, Brandon King are all in the building as we jump in at it. Shout out to those. Shout out to those on YouTube. We'll get back and check on those. As I'm saying that, let me go to you, Charles. As I say to everybody, as including you all, happy Father's Day weekend for all the fathers out there, those that lead from the front and have a father like role. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy it, relax, sit back, and do you. With that being said, Charles, what news is on your mind for the day?
Yeah, I wanted to start off today's show on a bit of a somber note. Homer Jones, Texas Southern great, and the first NFL player to be credited with spiking the football, passed away today. Homer Jones, Texas Southern alum, who played 7 years in the NFL and is credited with inventing the most widely used touchdown celebration, the spike the ball celebration. Passed away today at the age of 82 years old. A little bit of background on Homer Jones. Before his NFL career, he played football and ran track at Texas Southern and was a member of the 1962 U.S. Olympic track team, along with another track and football legend we all know in Florida A&M and Dallas Cowboy wide receiver, the late Bullet Bob Hayes. But Homer Jones was part of Tigers team that went 25-17 in his 4 years on a team in which he moved from linebacker to fullback and finally to flanker, what is now known as wide receiver. But Homer Jones, a bit of trivia, who was the first person to bring that spike in the football into the NFL? It was HBCU man, Texas Southern man, Homer Jones.
Boy, I tell you, really good to relive that, and certainly some prayers to him and his family. But I'm glad that you started the show off to recognize another HBCU legend, HBCU great, particularly when you talk about the historical component that is attached to him being accredited with the spike of the football. Imagine that, how many folks have done that over the years if he in terms of what that looks like. That's pretty incredible. Great information, and appreciate you opening it up from that. With that being said, AD Drew, what's on your mind?
So black folk has fitted the spike of the football and the high five. Well, black folks sure know how to celebrate when we score in an athletic endeavor.
Yeah, we cool. We bring the cool with you, man.
Yeah. Let's talk NIL, Dr. Cavil. And, I'm the small school guru, so let's talk about it on the Division II level. As there's a potential bill that's floating through Congress, student-sponsored student athletes have expressed some concerns with NIL. And on the Division II level, they want to remain classified as student athletes and not as employees. And this bill is circulating through Congress right now, hoping to make its way to President Biden's desk. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty, Dr. Cavil. What could this mean for HBCUs at the Division II level if this NIL bill that is currently in the draft stage passes? All right. The bill, which is in draft mode, is expected to address potential relationship from schools towards athletes with NIL deals who may transfer out, a potential governing body to keep track of NIL deals and booster related agreements, and protecting the NCAA from lawsuits and having to allow students with NIL deals to be eligible for employee status. As HBCUs continue to be a hot topic of conversation from a branding perspective, it will be interesting to see how this letter from the Division II level, as well as the potential NIL bill, impact their way of athletic programming and athletes as athletes navigate the changing landscape of the business of college athletics. And this comes from HBCUsports.com, this report that I just gave.
Great report. I hate to break it to these Division II students. They not worried about y'all. Division I, and even at the Division I level, is FBS. But you are the king.
Unless you come from NCCU, you don't have any power.
Division II, you did it right. The other thing I will say, do you all know the two folks that are championing this bill? Did you hear the names associated with that?
No, I did not.
One Democratic, Manchin, and I say that softly, and the other one's a Republican, a former coach.
Don't tell me Tuberville.
I say be careful of wolves. Tuberville. Be careful of wolves.
You got a chance of it not passing if Tuberville has to get up and actually speak on the bill. Tuberville is not the brightest light in that congressional room.
He'll probably die on the floor before he even make it to 5 signatures, man. There's folks here. But yeah, it's a good storyline. Boy, I tell you. That was pretty good.
So as I understand that the draft, the Division II athletes would rather be classified as student athletes versus employees, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the tax implications is what I heard when I heard employee, because you got to issue a W-2 if somebody becomes an employee.
Yeah, but the problem is employee just means that you're paying taxes on money that you're getting paid for.
Yeah.
So you might want to get paid first.
Right.
I mean, it's not like people don't work to pay taxes. It's not that hard. You're not going to make all that money. But you just rather not get paid at all because you worry about taxes that you not get no money for right now. Make it make sense.
Oh, boy. That's funny.
Exactly.
Oh,
Go ahead, Charles. Follow up. Because that was good.
Well, let's shift it over to football. North Carolina Central, they will come into the season ranked 13th in the latest FCS preseason top 25, coming off a 10-win campaign that included 2 top 25 victories and an HBCU national championship. North Carolina Central is ranked 13th in the 2023 Hero Sports FCS preseason top 25. In 2022, NCCU won its first MEAC football championship since 2016 and defeated number 5 Jackson State 41-34 in overtime thriller in the Cricket Celebration Bowl. The victory delivered the university the 4th HBCU national championship title, joining the company of those that captured that title in 1954, 2005, and 2006. So North Carolina Central, they will be the odds-on favorite coming into this upcoming season. When you take a look at the MEAC, and they have they project to have 12 all MEAC performers, including 5 first-team all-conference honorees. Headlining that group will be senior quarterback Davius Richard, if we're not in Louisiana. So the 2022 MEAC Offensive Player of the Year and senior defensive back Khalil Baker, the 2022 MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. So North Carolina Central, they come in locked and loaded.
Man, I'm glad you corrected it in mid. They would swear you did that on purpose. Exactly.
I know.
It's like, no, man, I'm in this area. That's what the last quarterback we dealt with in this area a couple of times pronounced it differently. Quick question to follow up on this. Over and under, will anybody not pick North Carolina Central as the number 1 team in the MEAC?
Oh, there's no question. They come in. They will be picked to be the favorite. Yeah, there's no question.
Over and under. Is that a half? I guess.
Half of what? I mean, Central's the preseason number 1.
It just takes one person.
Central is the preseason number 1. If they are not unanimous, we need to find the Russian judge. That's all I'm going to say.
It only takes one person to sip something from prior the night before to come in with something outlandish other than North Carolina Central being number one in the MEAC. Yeah, but yeah, it could happen. But
so does that change when it goes to the national? When you see these HBCU major division, D1, large polls, whatever, anybody not selecting North Carolina Central coming out of the box as number one?
I don't think so. I think North Carolina Central should, especially with Davis Richards coming back.
People will make an argument for.
Shout out to Joshua Sims Senior. You know, he's loving this. He's like, oh, better not. He have a fit.
Oh, it's
Now, Doc, people will make an argument for Florida A&M. Now, as a Florida A&M homer, I don't understand that argument, but there will be people who will make an argument for Florida A&M.
I know there are people, but will anybody say it out loud and put
now, when you put it
ranking?
What when you put a pen to paper on that is a different question.
Exactly. With that, last thing is quickly, we got to get in the break. We got a great interview coming up on the other side. MEAC announces hires of Patricia, Porter-Mayfield, and Randy Brent. MEAC continues to make significant moves in their MEAC office. The MEAC announced the return of Patricia Porter-Mayfield, who will serve as the league's Associate Commissioner for Strategic Commission, and the hire of Randy Brent, the conference's Director of Digital Media and Marketing. Brent has started with the MEAC, and Porter-Mayfield's tenure will become on July 3rd. So just wanted to give an update there as they continue to move things forward. Fascinating to see what that looks like. Digital media marketing, you know, I'm interested in that, and I always got to have the communication out there. So shout out to these two individuals. Let's take our first break, come back on the other side, and we'll see if we can get our guests in here to shine and give us an update. Looking forward to a great interview. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach you.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have AD Drew, and we have our guest, Hall of Famer. Well, let me correct it. Multi-Hall of Famer, Mr. Lynn Thompson, who was recently inducted into the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2023. He was down there in Orlando. He told me, but he didn't remind me, I would have booked my tickets to get down there to celebrate. This is big. First HBCU individual celebrated in this way. Obviously, HBCU person through and through. Undergraduate at Bethune-Cookman. Even went over to master's at Clark Atlanta University. Bethune-Cookman, athletic director, then later named as vice president of athletics, intercollegiate athletics, one of the first ADs, particularly in the HBCU rank, that went from just an athletic director that got to nomenclature of vice president. Now working consultant with the MEAC. I know so much there, I don't want to leave a lot out, but we do the rest of the show just doing your accolades. So I just want to kind of highlight some things. 30 years of experience, one of the youngest ADs when he got into the game, went out as one of the longest standing tenures as he tipped his cap, or let me say, I should tip my cap to you in terms of service. Bethune-Cookman's programs have done some things that we hadn't seen. Baseball team went to the 5th game in terms of their super regional, looking like there were a couple of plays, tough call away, maybe to get into a super regional would have been the first. Obviously, softball team made it into the 2nd round of the tournament, stuff that we hadn't quite seen. Success in football, knocking on the door in basketball, success with women's basketball. Too many accolades to name in terms of what we've done. Did I do it well? Did I get my check? Did I do it appropriately? You gonna come back?
Get your check, Doc. as long as Charles, did he do it okay?
It sounded like he did it all right there. He set it up well there.
Well, I just say we won't want no problems. I don't want no
No,
problems.
you're good.
You're like, man, what were you doing?
I appreciate what you guys do, man. I follow everything you guys do. The conversations you have are on point, and I appreciate the storytelling that you guys do. You really keep the hot button issues at the forefront, and you tell the stories, and you keep alive, and you keep HBCU sports relevant, and that is so important to all of us in the industry. And I want to tip my hat to you guys for what you do.
Man, appreciate it. It means so much coming from you. Let me jump off and start it this way. Before we backtrack a little bit and ask you how you got into athletics, for those that may not be aware.
Wow. Of it. Man,
what happened? I want to ask you this one first. How did you feel when you got the call? Or was it a letter?
No, it was a call. I was sitting where I am right now. I had just returned, and I split my time from here in Ormond Beach at home to, I have an office in Norfolk. And normally it's a couple of weeks a month where I'm actually in Norfolk, and then on the road whenever Commissioner Steele needs me to go somewhere. And I was here, and I was having a pretty tough day handling some things. And I got a call from Pat Manick, who is the executive director of NACDA. And, and he called me. I recognized the number from Cleveland because, of course, I'd spoken with the people at NACDA before on a couple of different other matters. So when I saw the area code and I knew that was the NACDA office, I assumed it might have been something to deal with the APR 2.0 conversation that we've been having with that task force or something else. And he called me, and he just was talking, and he had just taken over, and he said, man, let me just cut to the chase. And he just said, I just want to be the first to let you know that we just left executive committee meeting, and you unanimously endorsed and selected to be in the class of 23 NACDA Hall of Fame. Wow. And it hit me because I did not even know that I had been nominated. And he said, this was a committee of your peers nationwide who felt that your body of work merited your inclusion in this class of 8 people. And so after that, I just sat there and I was speechless because, you go to work and then you work. That's all you do. And so I called Sonia Steele and I said, what did you do? And she said, what do you mean? And she had nothing to do with it. And so I then began to try to find out who did this, And finally, one of my colleagues said to me, who I trust and respect, said, man, look, you can't go no higher than this in the industry. If you have reached Cleveland, Ohio for an athletic director is Canton, Ohio for an NFL player. You know, and so I just said, to God be the glory. And nobody gets into the Hall of Fame by themselves. No one. I mean, no Olympian gets from the podium by himself or herself. You don't. You can't do that, you know. And I just began to reflect on the people who came alongside me in the vision and the mission that we had, and bought into it, and sacrificed and committed. And so having to really sit back and think over 30 years how it all started, what were the seminal points and the pivotal points in my career, and all of the people who were able to really to come alongside and provide the support, the assistance, and even the correction that I needed to make sure that we were able to transform the lives of so many young people. And I just owe them a debt of gratitude, and will always owe it to them for as long as I can breathe. And that you know, that, Doc, is what it was all about. And so the last couple of days, when my family members came, and friends, supporters, even the FAMU fans came, and Vaughn Wilson and Joe Bullitt and Marvin Green and a host of FAMU friends came over. Yeah, it was amazing. And it was kind of overwhelming. It really was.
Wow. Beautiful thing. Before I get these two gentlemen to ask some follow-up questions, because I know they're jumping a bit, I did want to take a liberty and ask one more and go back. As we kind of culminated with the call, as things propel, as you take the next chapter, how did you start? How did you get in that?
That's a question. It had to be providence, so to speak. As you know, I was a footballer. Went to school, played football, had a lot of offers. Was talked into staying home by Charles Wesley Moore, who's the football coach at Bethune-Cookman. I really wanted to go to Air Force Academy. I had an appointment at Air Force to play football. My mother said no, because she had two of her brothers who were wounded veterans, one in Vietnam, one in the Korean conflict, and she said absolutely not. And so I never thought, growing up at Bethune-Cookman, right down the street, literally 2 minutes from the campus where we would walk, I never even considered going there. And Coach Moore made a home visit, and he convinced my parents and I how bad he wanted me to play there. And my father was the funeral director, and he said, how else will your father be able to see you play on Saturday? As a black funeral director, he can't go on Saturdays anywhere else to see you play. You know, he's gonna be, you know, our people get buried on Saturdays. Y'all know that, you know. And so, and I decided, I had offers to go to FAMU and other schools, and I had 17 offers to go to play college football, and I decided to go to Bethune-Cookman. But having done that, I signed out of college in 1979, played with the Packers a year as a punter. They kept me on injured reserve the whole year. I hurt my leg late in training camp, had a torn hamstring. And once I got healthy, 3/4 of the year, they released me. Came back home and decided to go to graduate school. I was in Atlanta. Working in graduate school, took an internship at PBS, Public Broadcast System, modeling and acting, putting my way through school, and doing reporting. I was a reporter on Georgia football, college football in Georgia was the name of the show, and I was a feature reporter, and I was writing for Pledge Drive, and then became a reporter on a TV show called Primetime, and I began to write, do commercials and things like that. And so I understood the communication industry, media and things like that, performing arts. And then my father got ill. And I moved back home temporarily. And Dr. Oswald Bronson, the president of Bethune-Cookman, asked me, would I take a part-time job as the executive director of the Athletic Foundation while I was still there with my father. And I said the only way I would take it would be, as a part-time executive. And because I was going to move back I had a house in Atlanta that was leasing. And I stayed there for a year and a half. And my father got better. And then one day, Dr. Bronson called me in his office and said, I need you to do me a favor. I really thought he needed a ride somewhere. So I ran outside. You know how somebody asks who you respect, asks you, I need you to do me a favor. So I ran outside and cleaned out my car. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It was junky and everything. And I came back in the office, and then he said, I need you to do me a huge favor. And I said, what is that? I need you to become my athletic director. My mother, who was with the National Alumni Association, said, don't do it. My brother said, don't do it. A lot of other people said, don't do it. Well, the late Si McLaren, who I trusted, said, you have to do it. One of my other close friends, who was the former SID, said, you're the only person that we feel can do it. And so I prayed on it. And I decided to do it. And I had to go back to Atlanta and close out all of my stuff, move my stuff back. And that became my life ministry. And that's what I did. But I began to merge all of the things that I learned in the performing arts and the media, because athletics is simply the performing arts. Think about it. The football field, the field of competition is the stage. You got lights, right? The characters, the performers are the student athletes. The coaches are the directors. The playbook is the script. The audience is the audience. And when you go off script, you improv. It's improvisation. And so all of those elements are there. And so I just felt that we could utilize every aspect of the program to build upon that. And that's what we did.
Man, beautiful. You know I'm going to mess with you because we thought Cat Eye Network was one of the best ones out there. Now you're in this thematic, dark picture as we do this interview. You're artistic by nature. I know there's a lot of purpose to that.
And that's
in regards to what they're listening to.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the last thing before we do this first break, come back on the other side, we'll get questions from these two gentlemen. Just want to acknowledge, I've always had this desire to create a degree that was similar to an artistic degree that you talk about in terms of these playlists that you see, performance art degree, but one that was performance athletics. And so I might need to talk with you off record to see if I can finally bring that to life, as you just found a way to describe what I was thinking about over that time. Let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get questions from Charles and AD, because I'm sure they're biting into bits to make sure that they get a question in. And so let's take this first break with this interview, second break of the show. We'll come back on the other side and give you more Hall of Famer, Lynn Thompson.
Nope. Come on, him? Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum designed for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
From the analytic data with your hip hop, if you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have Charles Bishop, AD Drew, and our Hall of Famer, Lynn Thompson. Shout out to Christopher Dukes, Mary 305. Checking us out on YouTube. We'll get a shout out to those checking us out on Facebook. But with that being said, Charles, jump in here and ask your question.
Yeah, and I probably can go in 1,000 different directions, but I'm a person who loves the art of storytelling in regards to documentaries. And I definitely wanted to ask you about Kingfish, the story of Kenny Washington. I'm fascinated by his story. And how did you come to this project?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked me that because let me tell you how that happened. There's a young lady by the name of Jasmine Austin. And Jasmine Austin became a graduate assistant at Bethune-Cookman. Jasmine was the one person that took us over the top with the Cat-Eye Network. She is a guru in terms of graphics, a graphic designer. And she came to us and was stolen away from us by Oregon, University of Oregon. Wow. And she worked directly with Oregon and Mario Cristobal there. Before she even finished her master's degree at Bethune, she worked there for a year and a half in their graphics department for football. And she called us back and said, I got to come back home because while I'm doing all this wonderful graphic stuff, I cannot impact any young people. I'm just stuck in the studio designing graphics all day long, but I don't get a chance to interact with people. And so she came back. And she is the one that we give a lot of credit to, and Brian Harvey for really I just told her the dream. And so once she finished, she left and created a company called The Black Original. And the Black Originals is an agency now. She and her fiance, Sam Hogue, created this company, and they've got Fortune 500 companies that really have hired them to do a lot of messaging and storytelling. And so Jasmine called me because we did a lot of a trilogy of things on Mary McLeod Bethune that I wrote and produced, and a lot of other things for the institution and for the MEAC that we had done. And so Jasmine and Sam and the Black Originals were hired by the Los Angeles Rams to do this documentary short film on Kingfish, Washington. And so they called me and said, Mr. T, that's what they call Mr. T, we need you to write it for us. And so at the time I got asked, I'd love to do it. I wrote it, and then I narrated it. And what we did was a sample track of narration because they wanted to get a couple of big time West Coast narrators to do it. But when they heard the narration of the sample track, they said, we love this. We want to keep this. And the research that we've done, and we partnered with a couple of other folks, a group out of Charlotte by the name of Lloyd Visuals. And they were just amazing young brothers to work with. One of them happens to be an alpha. God bless him, Doc. Y'all, that's all right. Y'all, we look up sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But it was a brilliant team of storytellers And we did the research on Kenny Washington. And if anybody knows that story, Kenny Washington would have been the #1 draft choice in the NFL draft. But when he came out, he would have won the Heisman Trophy. He was the quarterback for the UCLA Bruins. And in the backfield was Jackie Robinson, and the tight end was Woody Strode. But none of those guys could play pro football. And so he played for the Pacific Coast Football League, and they were all making more money than any NFL player at the time. And so we had to wait 6 years before the NFL would even consider black players. And so Bob Pope was able to help them when the Cleveland Browns moved to Los Angeles. There was a city ordinance because they renovated the Coliseum in the middle of the black community. And there was a city ordinance that said that any organization, any workforce, anybody that leased the Coliseum had to have a diversified workforce. And that included the LA Rams. So the black press made them use that. And they said, well, who we going to get? And they said, well, you got Kenny Washington. And so they signed Kenny Washington. And the rest is history. And that was the first black player that was the first semblance of a pro franchise permeating a community of color in terms of marketing and everything else. And it still holds true to this day. The Rams are entrenched in the black community in Compton and Watts and all those other areas of Los Angeles simply because of that connection with Kenny Washington.
Wow.
Man,
fascinating.
He was big.
Appreciate you sharing that. Great question, Charles. Getting that out there. AD, Drew?
All right, Dr. Thompson, I'm going to come with a question, straight liquor, no chase on this question. Obviously, I'm a Rattler. So I need you to tell me about the other side of the rivalry with Florida A&M. Obviously, I know the Florida A&M side. Tell us about the Bethune side of it, and specifically your perspective as the athletic director in this friendly rivalry between these two institutions.
Okay. Let me tell you this, AD. Folks from around the country ask me so many times, how is it that Bethune and FAMU are able to do business all the time? And really, and you know this, being a Rattler, the families are so intertwined.
Yes.
Even in my own family, going back generations, this is how it was. all the women in my family, they sent the women to Dr. Bethune, but they sent the men to Jake Gaither. And that's how it was.
Interesting.
They sent the women to Dr. Bethune, but the men to Jake Gaither. Okay.
Got it.
And to this day, there are generations of families who are intertwined. So much so that, which is why Joe Bullock, the voice of the Marching 100, okay, who can talk more noise about Bethune-Cookman than anybody. And AD, you know this. You've heard him at halftime just vilify Bethune-Cookman.
Yes, he does.
But it's out of love, and he and I have been friends for 25 years. Vaughn Wilson's father, who was the AD at FAMU, was a Bethune graduate. And so and here's the deal. They told me that for 364 days of the year, I'm one of the most beloved non-FAMU people on the earth. That's what they told me. Okay, now they say that one day in November, they hate my guts for about 6 hours. But then after the game, what we do is we go and tailgate again, and then we count the money. Because we count the money, and we make some serious money. While there are other classics that may draw some more people, nobody else was netting the revenue that we net from the Florida Classic. And so it is a business partnership that we said that Jake Gaither and Mary McLeod Bethune got together and had a baby called the Florida Classic.
There it is. I love it.
And that
Great
describes
story.
the relationship.
Wow, perfect. Quick one before we take this next break. Come back on the other side. Man, we can do this all day. We got to make sure we get this in and bring you back because I see more questions on people's tongue. Quickly, have you, with the relationship you had with Clark Atlanta University, have you scheduled them in athletics during your time as AD?
We tried, though. We tried, and we just, they didn't want to play. Okay, we have tried.
It's all on them.
Go around it. Yeah,
we also, and let me tell you this. Reggie Thomas, who was the senior associate athletic director, was an All-American at Clark Atlanta. And Reggie said, "Man, look, man. All right, you an alum, I'm an alum. Let me cut the deal." So we even offered them. Reggie made me up the ante by $25,000, and they still said, I said, "Reggie, what else?" He said,
"Yeah, they
boss, ain't nothing else
they like that." I tried to get them to come over here to play TSU, and they were like,
"Right,
no, we good. No, we're not coming." I said, "Well, we're gonna pay this. All that's great money, but no, we're not going to."
So but that's okay. But I have I'm doing some things. Let me tell you what we did do with Clark Atlanta this year with the MEAC. And a friend of mine who was a Clark Atlanta graduate and teaches a class there, we utilized Clark Atlanta School of Business and Sports Management to do some research for the MEAC, market research, and they presented a case study to us that we have begun to utilize in terms of market analysis and things like that. It was unbelievable stuff.
I think it's a great business school.
And Markeisha Henderson is Dr. Markeisha Henderson has left Agnes Scott College and now is heading up the sports management curriculum there. And I was talking to her 2 days ago in Orlando, and they're doing some wonderful things that we need to plug you in with her.
Certainly.
I can make sure that happens.
LinkedIn, but I'd love to get and do some partnership in terms of sport management.
Oh, absolutely. That is
terrific business school.
Yeah.
Only D-II program that's R2 in terms of the academic status of their relationship there. When you said MEAC in Clark Atlanta, I got a little nervous because I'm trying to recruit for the SWAC. Stick with us. I don't need anybody in trouble. We'll take that. We'll come right back after this break. We're going to leave it like it is. People be like, "Camille, what you doing?" We'll be right back after this last break.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and Instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Press the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles AD and the Hall of Famer Lynn Thompson in here just giving us a rich history. Let's get into it. This past Tuesday, we released on this show the top 6 HBCU Division I AD/VPs of athletics rankings. You've heard seen the list. We want to get in terms of who you want in and out of the list, because we don't want you to get in trouble with all the folks that you train and they're going to be calling you, ask you why you didn't say they should have been on the list. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of your expertise, on a serious note, these are the criteria we use. Are any of these that should be taken off, or is there something that I didn't consider that should be added on, is the question I want to get you. So one was new revenue generation, top 4 sports championships. We looked at football, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball independently. But then we also looked at all sports to look at the health of a total program in terms of all sports conference finish. Did you finish at the top third of your conference? Postseason, not only in terms of making it to postseason, but how did you perform in postseason? New facility development. 6, those are the top 5. 6 was communication plus social media, so it could be both or independent of either one of those. 7 was innovation. What are you doing new? Strategy. Plus, what is your influence? Right? And 8 was this miscellaneous type of category. Of those categories, any of them weighted too much, or is there anything we should have added in your consideration when we look at top 6
Well,
ADs, VPs?
I want to add about miscellaneous, because one of the things that I did not see, but I can see that it does impact almost every other column there, would be APR. And that could fall under miscellaneous, but it has the ability to impact, number one, let's see, championships, postseason, and everything else. And while there are a lot of people who think that APR is solely a function of athletics, they are sadly mistaken. As you all know, and you in the academy, there are so many factors that affect APR, and we can talk about that down the road. But I think you kind of nailed everything here, and those are very good categories to really capture what could be, I guess, categorized as comprehensive success. And because that is what you look for. An athletic director or an executive, at the executive table, that is what they are looking for. They're looking for comprehensive success on an annual basis. We're going to factor in at the end of the year in terms of the drive to win a championship and the ability to be relevant and to drive revenue for the institution. In this era where nobody turns a profit, and let's be real about that, nobody turns a profit hardly. You want to be in a position that nobody is having a huge drain on the bottom line for an institution either, because it depends on which economic model you're looking at. You want to make sure that you are at least driving revenue and getting credit for other segments of the institution for generating revenue external to athletics, because some CFOs will see a huge benefit that the institution is receiving as a result of athletics, but will not ever open their mouth to say, we derive this economic benefit because y'all won the Celebration Bowl or you did this. For instance, admission. what we call general student aid revenue. That all of a sudden you get a 46% increase in enrollment applications, and because you won the Celebration Bowl, and now you don't have enough rooms on campus to satisfy the new student enrollment figures. And when you survey everybody, they say, "Oh, we decided we're coming there because we saw that great win in the Celebration Bowl. We saw the team, we saw the band, we saw everything else." And I'm from South Dakota, and I'm a black kid from South Dakota, and I saw so and so play, and I fell in love with your school, and I
want some of that.
That's right.
Right.
And when you survey them and find out why did you come, and there are firms that provide that data. And I think I told you a little earlier, I know at the MEAC, we're getting that data. And so we know know how those decisions are made. And we know what the MEAC team are doing and how the success, when it's generated, we know what the benefit is to the general institution. So I think these are great milestones that factor into comprehensive success. And that was surprising to see some of the teams and how they and even the ADs and how they were ranked based on the success, based on those. Now,
we had some folks that
let me tell you what the question is. See, I'm out of the game now. I'm out of the game. So if they got agents, they're going to take Dr. Cavil's listing into the negotiation room to get an extension or a bump. Okay? That's what they're going to do.
That was the first thing I thought about. I would go in with that data like,
just let the agent know. All I need is 1%. All I need is 1%.
But you just, I mean,
you know, and I did run the numbers back.
Say what?
There you go. I did run the numbers back, Lynn, over your 30 years, and no wonder you're a Hall of Famer. You kept coming up first. Several times ran the data across those subsets over the years. So I'm just saying, even though you retired now from that position doing other things, you did pretty well for yourself. Let me jump over here. Go ahead.
You know what? Let me tell you this. The key, today's athletic director, in order for this to work, what you have to do is you have to be at the table at your institution to affect broad-based buy-in and participation on the campus level.
I'm glad you said that.
From your registrar's office to your office of admissions, and you got to all the stakeholders, because APR, transfer portal, and everything else. Do you realize that somebody in residential life can cause Kenyatta Cavil to transfer to Texas, and you know nothing about it because somebody in residential life made him so mad that he said, "Forget it, I'm gone." And you have done everything else that you could. And then also, you could say that Kenyatta Cavil wanted to play alpha at Bethune-Cookman, and his coach said, "I ain't letting nobody pledge," but he was a legacy. I'm serious. And they said nobody could pledge. And he wanted to be an alpha so bad that he was forced to leave. And the way to keep APR in place is to really embed these student athletes in student leadership roles on your campus, where there's value to them that they cannot leave, because I'm leaving a valued leadership role on my campus that is going to be so impactful in my life that I'm a big fish on my campus, not only because I play ball, but my voice matters, you know, on the executive level. So when I lead students, I'm leading them in a boardroom, as well as leading them on through the tunnel onto the field. That stuff really matters.
That's interesting.
Go ahead, Charles.
Well, I wanted to follow up on that point because I think for a lot of fans, they get frustrated with athletes going to the transfer portal and things of that nature. But are you saying that a way to sort of stem the tide, if you will, of athletes leaving from one university to go to another opportunity is for them to not be segregated from sort of the general population of the university.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had at Bethune-Cookman, we've had a middle linebacker by the name of Dietrich Strawn, who was the SGA president. We've had former student athletes who were Miss Bethune-Cookman University. How could you leave that? You know? I mean, think about it. How could you leave that when you're going down in history? You know, as you know, it's you can't leave that because it means too much in the resume of your life. You know, and so that's the key to really ingraining them in the fabric of the university. That's the benefit that schools like ours have. You know, so that when they come back to homecoming, everybody knows who they were. When they got access to Dr. Cavil or Charles Bishop, they can come to your house and they can bring their families there and say, here we are, you know, remember this, and you can talk about instances, milestone moments with them, rather than them coming back and just pointing to a building and nobody knew who they were. And remember this, and I say this to every recruit, you have the opportunity to impact this university as much as it will have the opportunity to impact you. You know, and that's the key. That university will change your life, but we want you to also etch your name in the annals of the history books of this university in more ways than one. Forget the record books. You know, forget that, because they'll take those and put them on the shelf. We want you to write your name in the hearts and the minds of the people who touched your life. That's the difference. That's what we can do at our institution. And that's what the parents send them to us to do. But it's Raekwon and Bernice in the beauty shop and the barber shop who don't know the difference, who convince them otherwise.
Right. Sure. Great point. Drew, wanted to allow you, I know you had a question you want to get in here as well. So as we come to a close, go ahead and ask that question.
And unfortunately, told you at the beginning of the show, things were bad in my neighborhood, so I lost my internet at the house. So I'm on my cell phone. So I missed you guys' closing when you were talking about the athletic directors. But I did want to ask you this, Dr. Thompson. You were I think a fairly successful athletic director during your tenure there at Bethune-Cookman, especially over the last 10 years. I mean, we saw success with your baseball program. I believe they won like 14 MEAC titles in a row. You had won basketball, both on the men's and the women's side, as you were walking out the door. Softball had won. Football was very competitive. So I asked you this, Lynn. You heard Dr. Cavil get those different criteria for those athletic directors. Which of those do you think, number one, that you embodied when you were an athletic director? Which of those that you think you probably were more successful with your strengths? And which of those criteria do you think, I wish I would have gotten this better when I was sitting in that chair?
It's a great question. And that's a tough question too. Here's the deal for me. Dr. Bronson told me this. He said, and I'll close on this. I said this, and I wrote this in my bio for NACDA. All my years of going around the country, and I looked at institutions, I found that I don't care if it's Texas Southern, FAMU, UCLA, colleges and universities at the end of the day are built out of two things: buildings and people. I don't care how big they are, how small they are. They're comprised of two things: buildings and people. I told Dr. Bronson that, and he said, Glenn, you're right. He said, I may not have the money to build you buildings, but I can get you the money to get some people. And so I built a staff of people, and staff consistency is what I was able to build at Bethune-Cookman. And the people who were able to impact the lives of these kids and build our programs up is what kept us going. Now, we ain't have no facility. Dr. Cavil, you seen them. We ain't have no facility, you know. And that was the one thing I wish that we could have had. But now we built some great interlocal agreements with the city of Daytona Beach to utilize city facilities and share them, which allowed us to take advantage of that. But if we would have been in a position to have, you know, the Lawson Center or even Bragg Stadium, you know, we would have been able to really do some great things. So the one of the regrets that I have is that we were so locked into space that we could not grow our own facility. But we were able to grow with people and build our program. And I was able to grow so much so that now we've got ADs and administrators all over the country who came out of our shop and are doing some remarkable things. And along the way, we won a ton of championships and we graduated some great kids, put some kids in the pros. And now our model is being duplicated the same way.
No doubt. It's been a great opportunity to have you on the show. Join us again. Obviously, last time we spoke with you in the announcement in terms of Bethune-Cookman becoming the 12th member of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Now we bring you back as you are Hall of Fame, National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics, NACDA. And we just wanted to thank you for your time. We also wanted to thank you for what you've done for not only Bethune-Cookman, the HBCUs, the MEAC, therefore the SWAC, SIAC and CIAA in terms of leading from in front in so many different ways. So we wanted to make sure we acknowledge that. And thank you for giving us your valuable time on the show.
Hey, Dr. Cavil, I want to say one thing. We must have done a good show because the esteemed and highly acclaimed Dr. Corey Banks just sent me a text, said, "Great show." And that is nice. So we want to shout him out, right?
Dr. Banks. Yeah, we'll take that. He was a great host while I was there, along with yourself, but particular Dr. Banks. He made sure I was good in so many different ways when I was up in MEAC for the MEAC men's and women's basketball tournament. And with that, I'll be back. I'll say that in terms of what that looks like. Want to say thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed our Hall of Fame, our guest, Lynn Thompson. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, AD Drew, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We will look forward to you next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, DrKenyattacavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1, Facebook. On Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, as you know, is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
AD?
Lecture.
Say it with me, Lynn Thompson. Dismiss.
Yes.